Paris, 1979. A car riddled with bullets sits in the heart of the city. Inside lies the lifeless body of Jacques Mesrine, France's most dangerous criminal. But 3 years earlier, in Nice, a bank vault was emptied without a single gunshot, without a single casualty. The mastermind? Albert Spaggiari, a genius thief who vanished like a ghost. One spread fear, the other earned admiration. But who was the real threat? Before we move on to the next part, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening. November 2nd, 1979. Paris. A BMW slows in mid-traffic on Boulevard de Clignancourt. In the blink of an eye, a covert anti-terrorist police unit opens fire. 21 bullets rip through the windshield. Inside the car, Jacques Mesrine, the most wanted man in France, dies instantly. No warning, no chance to surrender. This wasn't just the end of a fugitive, it was the end of an era, one where crime had become a form of protest and violence a language of defiance. 3 years earlier, in the sun-drenched city of Nice, bank staff returned from a long holiday weekend to find a nightmare. The Société Générale vault was empty. 60 million francs, nearly $40 million today, vanished. No alarms, no signs of forced entry, just one message scrawled on the wall in ink. Pas d'armes, pas de haine, pas de violence. No guns, no hatred, no violence. The signature of Albert Spaggiari, ex-paratrooper, photographer, former right-wing militant, and mastermind of the most sophisticated bank heist in French history. Two events, seemingly unrelated, form two sides of the same truth. 1960s and 70s. France was a nation on the brink. Post-war trauma, economic collapse, and the bitter legacy of Algeria had left society brittle. Crime in this vacuum wasn't just criminal, it was theatrical. Mesrine chose chaos, robbed in daylight, murdered without hesitation, escaped prisons and taunted the system. He wasn't just a criminal, he was a spectacle. Spaggiari, in contrast, worked in silence. He shed no blood. He needed no guns, but he struck at the heart of France's institutions with surgical precision. Where Mesrine craved fear, Spaggiari demanded awe. One was a storm, the other a whisper. But they were both reacting to the same system, both born of a France that no longer knew what justice looked like. Mesrine was born in 1936 to a middle-class family in Clichy. He was well-educated but quickly turned defiant. His service in the French Foreign Legion during the Algerian War scarred him deeply, eroding empathy, instilling mistrust, teaching him that violence was power. Over 2 decades, he robbed banks across France, Canada, and even Venezuela. He escaped 4 maximum security prisons, including La Santé in Paris. His criminal spree claimed at least 39 lives. And through it all, Mesrine didn't hide. He wanted his name on the front page. He wanted France to watch. Albert Spaggiari, born 1932, also served in colonial wars, but emerged with a different vision. He wasn't a killer. He didn't rage. He calculated. In 1976, he led a team to dig a tunnel under the city of Nice. 8 meters long, cutting through sewage systems and beneath alarm sensors, the team spent 2 months underground. Once inside the vault, they welded the door shut from within and took their time. No shots fired, no blood spilled, just brilliance. When finally caught in 1977, Spaggiari talked the judge into letting him consult with his lawyer. Uncuffed. Then he leapt from a second-story window and onto a waiting motorcycle. He vanished from France and never returned to custody. Later, he would mock the authorities in letters, claiming, "I'm not a criminal, I'm an artist. Artists don't belong in cages." Don't let the contrast fool you. Both men were rebels. Mesrine was fire, burning everything in his path. Spaggiari was ice, silent, methodical, precise. One tore down the walls of order with brute strength, the other slipped through the cracks. In sociological terms, Mesrine was the bastard child of post-colonial rage. Spaggiari was the middle-class cynic turned illusionist, and both were symptoms of the same sickness, a state cracking under its own contradictions. So why did these men, born of the same era, choose such different paths to infamy? That question leads us deeper, to their minds, to their methods, to the anatomy of their crimes. Jacques Mesrine didn't just break the law, he declared war on it. He saw himself as a soldier without a country, a warrior in a personal vendetta against the institutions that raised and then discarded him. Across 20 years, his record read like a battlefield. More than 30 armed robberies, multiple kidnappings, at least 39 confirmed deaths, and 4 prison escapes. But these weren't just acts of survival. They were statements. He treated every escape, every heist, like a broadcast to the nation. He wanted to be feared, and more than that, understood. His 1972 escape from Saint-Vincent-de-Paul prison in Quebec was almost mythological. Armed only with a wooden gun, Mesrine and an accomplice fooled guards and fled. But instead of vanishing, they came back, storming the prison in broad daylight to free other inmates. It was not strategy, it was ego. He was driven by what modern psychology classifies as antisocial personality disorder, impulsive, remorseless, addicted to chaos, allergic to authority. He once kidnapped a journalist, Jacques Tillier, who had written a scathing article about him. Mesrine tortured the man, left him paralyzed, and later told another reporter, "I don't rob banks for money. I rob them because it's the only way this country will listen to me." This wasn't a criminal mind in the traditional sense. It was a man with no use for consequences, only for control. Albert Spaggiari, meanwhile, treated crime like architecture. The Nice heist of 1976 was engineered with military precision. Spaggiari recruited a team that included a former geologist. They studied soil conditions, used seismic measuring devices to avoid triggering alarms, and dug for nearly 2 months. The tunnel opened directly into the bank's vault. Once inside, they camped for 3 days, eating and resting as they emptied hundreds of safe deposit boxes. The note left behind, a final touch of flair. No violence, no casualties, just elegance. When arrested, Spaggiari maintained his composure. He smiled in court, he joked with the judge. Then, in an unguarded moment, he dove out of a window and vanished. He resurfaced through letters, mocking French law enforcement and romanticizing his crimes. Psychologists see in him signs of narcissistic personality disorder, grandiosity, manipulation, and a profound need for admiration, without empathy or remorse. In the eyes of French criminal law, Mesrine violated Articles 221, homicide, 311, armed robbery, and 432, resistance to arrest. Spaggiari was charged under Articles 311, grand theft, 314, organized crime, and 450, aiding escape. Both men challenged the system, one through fear, the other through finesse. Police Chief Roger Lataillante, who pursued Mesrine for years, once said, "He wasn't just a killer, he was a performance." In contrast, journalist Jean-Charles Degnaud, who followed Spaggiari's trail across continents, wrote, "If he had been born into a different world, Spaggiari might have been a genius engineer or a master architect." Both men defied the stereotype of criminals, and both posed a terrifying question to the justice system. Who's more dangerous, The killer who demands attention, or the ghost who slips past the alarms? Mesrine's death wasn't the end of a criminal. It was the start of a debate. Why was a French citizen, even a dangerous one, gunned down without trial in the middle of a public street? His execution sparked a public outcry, forcing the government to reassess its methods. Within a year, France launched RAID, its elite anti-terror unit, in part because of the chaos Mesrine had inspired. Fear, once personified in one man, had reshaped policy. His legacy wasn't just blood, it was mythology. In his prison memoir, L'Instinct de Mort, written in La Santé, Mesrine framed himself as a martyr. I only did what France taught me to do: fight, kill, and trust no one. The book became a bestseller. Later, it became a film. He became an icon, not despite his crimes, but because of them. And in that transformation lay a dangerous truth. Fear sells. Violence entertains. Albert Spaggiari, in contrast, slipped back into the shadows. After his courtroom escape, he hid in South America for over a decade, sending taunting letters and poems back to France. Rumors claimed he had undergone plastic surgery. Some said he returned to France in disguise for a lover's funeral. When he died in 1989, in Italy, only one woman was by his side. Yet even in death, his smirk lingered, like a man who knew he'd never be caught. Not really. The way each man exited this world reflects the legacy they left behind. Mesrine was a storm, loud, brutal, undeniable. But storms fade. Spaggiari was erosion, slow, calculated, and permanent. His heist changed banking security forever. No more ground-level vaults, increased seismic sensors, and stricter employee screenings. Today, every fortified bank in France bears the invisible imprint of Albert Spaggiari. Globally, their names don't rival Pablo Escobar or Felix Gallardo. They weren't kingpins. They didn't command armies, but that's what makes them terrifying. Mesrine needed no cartel. Spaggiari required no war. Alone or in small crews, they destabilized institutions, not with size, but with singular will. So who was the true threat? The man who spilled blood and burned bridges, or the man who never fired a shot but made the world realize that no system is unbreakable? And if men like them walk among us now, armed not with guns, but with code, algorithms, or influence, will we recognize the danger in time? They're gone, but the question remains. In courtrooms, crime novels, and criminal psychology textbooks, their names linger. Mesrine echoes like a gunshot. Spaggiari whispers like an unsolved riddle. Both proved one bitter truth. When a society allows criminals to become legends, it must first admit its own cracks birthed their myth. They're both gone, but their shadows still haunt cold cases and courtrooms alike. One made France tremble with bloodshed. The other forced banks to change forever without firing a single bullet. So tell us, who was the greater danger? Mesrine, the remorseless killer, or Spaggiari, the man who broke the system with nothing but his mind? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're drawn to stories that dig deep into the minds of legendary criminals, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime that'll leave you questioning everything.